My name is Laminjai and this is News Review. Thank you very much for joining us. Coming up on the show today, Ramadan starts in the Gambia, but food is the major problem. How affordable are food items in this very special month for Muslims? Our reporter Usman Jara has been finding out, but also dates are also special fruits during Ramadan. Father Kamara will tell us a little more on that report too a little later. My guest today would be the chairman of the Civil Society Coalition, the Gambia, John Charles Njai. Before all of that, we'll look at what the newspapers are reporting on. And I will start with the Standard newspaper, where they are reporting that the leader of the United Democratic Party, Hussein Dabo, alleges government targeting perceived UDP chiefs, civil servants. Dusano says Dabo admits working with saboteurs. Also, Enterprise Life Assurance Company pays $4.2 million to benefits to customers. Silaba accuses opposition of distorting his comments on ingenuine Barrow supporters. Supreme Court okays Gambia National Guards police duties. And also, NAM regrets backing Women Enterprise Fund, accuses government of politicization. Let's see in detail the stories there. According to the Standard today, the leader of the United Democratic Party has accused government of targeting perceived sympathizers of his party for removal from positions. He said these include chiefs, Alkalolu, members of the security forces, and the civil service. That's according to UDP leader Dabo there. NAM regrets backing Women Enterprise Fund, accuses government of politicization. The National Assembly member for Ilyasa Dembo Kamar has said he regrets voting for the Women Enterprise Fund bill, as he accuses the government of politicizing the funds meant to empower Gambian women regardless of their political leanings. Also, Supreme Court okays Gambia National Guards police duties. The Supreme Court of the Gambia, presided over by Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallo and 4 other justices, have declared that the Gambia National Guard's performance of police duties does not contravene constitutional regulations. Well, it was Dr. Usman Gajiko who took a case to the Supreme Court that there are too many checkpoints, military checkpoints in the country, that this needs to be stopped. But the Supreme Court is saying that the army or the military has every right to mount checkpoints in various parts of the country. Silaba accuses opposition of distorting his comments on ingenuine Barrow supporters a few days after his attack on what he called the wolves in sheep's clothing surrounding President Barrow. Business tycoon Silaba Samata yesterday told the Standard that opposition politicians have used different platforms to give his comments a different meaning. Also, Enterprise Life Assurance Gambia Limited recently paid a total of $4.2 million to policyholders and families of deceased customers. We will now look at the Point newspaper and see what they are saying. Dabo to cut government spending by $80 million if elected. Well, he doesn't like the word if. He would use when. That's what Dabo would use, the word when. Kijera says Gambia will be unruly if Jammeh returns without justice. Security issue it should not be taken for granted. That's Governor Sane. Rural communities display forest products as trade fair wraps up. So the Standard or the Point report is saying the Secretary General and leader of the UDP has described the $80 million spent on other peripheral things as wasteful spending by President Adama Barrow's administration, saying his government would divert this amount into the health sector. Dabo made these remarks over the weekend at a gathering as the country is being hit by a spate of criminal activities, including killings and drug trafficking. Kijera says Gambia will be unruly if Jammeh returns without justice. The chairman of the Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations, Sirif Mohamed Kijera, at a press conference on Friday revealed that it has come to their notice that tactics and efforts of Jammeh's return are ongoing, which he describes as disastrous for this country and Jammeh himself. Security issues should not be taken for granted. That's the governor of the West Coast region speaking there, Lamin Sane, saying that the security issues should not be taken for granted, adding that all should put hands on deck to support the security, especially immigration personnel who are posted at the border post. That is it for the news first. Stay with us. We will be right back. Thank you and welcome back. So today is day 1 of Ramadan in the Gambia. It's a month when Muslims would stock up on food and other essential items in a month that is very special for Muslims in the country. But the issue of food is a big problem for this year as prices of foodstuff continue to rise, to shoot through the roof. Usman Jara tells us more.
The holy month of Ramadan is one of the most important months in the Islamic calendar, and it is a beautiful month that brings together families under one umbrella. However, this year's Ramadan came at a time when the world is grappling with the most devastating pandemic of the 21st century, which is COVID-19. It is a common character of the month. Few days before the month, people rush to the market to shop to get things for their families. Today being the first day of Ramadan, we're out and about at the Serekunda market to assess the current level of business at the market amid the pandemic.
The Serekunda market is one of the Gambia's biggest and busiest markets, and as the holy month of Ramadan commences, businesses and businessmen at the market get to receiving a lot of customers. But vendor Mai Sedi is describing business in the market as hard. Prices of goods have shot through the roof and the impact is being felt.
Mafiro kanjane de firo adia tala mandia no bije ka firi fengo tale ay mebulo kono tilije liba firi fenkili wa fula mamba no bije sata ay tariye bulo kono so firo la kolia bole nyama ngole sotoja man kuje folode butum malam fajane so mol sifala ba fisialal bare ala ka fo so malan sunkaro te firo ba betiala bare ya je lansa biru so man namba sire amantal tariyarim folo butum malam fone ndunta kono officialal ba.
Despite the high prices of commodities in the market, customers are still coming in their large numbers to shop for their Ramadan provisions. But almost every vendor is complaining.
Time in business bit sometimes guy defa yoka price be by bagas be defa yoka time in bubaha suma bol bit sometimes man mangi jaya $100 guy legi yoka nako 150 200 time be price be yep defa yoka time be ni
waaye foog nga ne loolu mu ngi affect sa customers yi seen
customers yi si ñëwee fii nii sometimes ni ngay wax bagage bi dafa seer parce que time bi ni gars yi yokk na price bi si weer koor bi si ñëwee sometimes gars yi ni ngay wàññi price bi time bi gars yi dafa yokk price bi bu baax a baax
sa business o de akoliyata bakele kan dum fengol dal be seer ne fengo sometimes ka kodo bondi aka ke ibul problem o fangolati fengol be ko yari ni marché kono mba adama barodani le try bagasol talado mandi molien ni wonte molbe batare ne fengon dalbe ko yarin tirobe ko fanambe ko yarin.
Ramadan is an important month for Muslims because Muslims go the whole day without food and water. Most find it necessary to stock up on food for their late evening and early morning meals. But prices of these commodities are increasing by the day, and that can only come off as big pain for them. Reporting for the Fatu Network News Review, Usman Jata.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Afrocell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11, any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Afrocell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Afrocell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Afrocell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Afrocell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back. Now, dates are a special fruit during Ramadan. It is said that it is the Prophet Muhammad himself who personally recommended for Muslims to break their fast with the fruit. Faru Kamara reports.
Narration tells us the breaking of fast with dates is rooted in religious techniques of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is quoted as saying, "When one of you is fasting, he should break his fast with dates, but if he cannot get any, then he should break his fast with water, for water is purifying." Islamic scholar Ustaz Muhammad C. of Serekunda explains.
Ndogo binga hamne ñi ngi koy ndogu ci tàndarma sunna la maanaam royukaay la boo xam ne roy nañ ko ci yonente bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam te julit moom alquran da war a jëfe ak jëfi yonente bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam alquran mooy farata mooy loo xam ne by force la sunna mooy li yonente bi daan def yow nga di ko def yonente bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam su ooraan ba ngoon tàndarma la daan dogoo ay tàndarma yoo xam ne dafa tool yooyu la daan doge su fekkee nag amul tàndarma mu jël ndox daal ci guux ñetti guux sooga mu ne lekk leneen saxaaba itam di ko def ci ginnaawam jullit itam di ko roy ci ginnaawam biñ demee ba nga xam ne suñ jamono ñu docteur yi seet ko xool gis ne njëriñ bu rëy moo ci nekk ci ginnaaw bi nga xiifee ndax dina am boo wooree dina am lu wàññeeku ci yuur bi am lu wàññeeku ci gis-gis bi ñu ne tàndarma nag daf lay replace loolu daf ko dee wutu ci gannaaw bi nga xam ne lekk nga tàndarma waaye julliti moom liñ ci jublu mooy jaamu yàlla subhanahu wa taala def li nga xam ne moom la yonent bi doon def.
The scholar advises Muslims to take dates in odd numbers.
te Medina fi yonent bi nekkoon moom place tàndarma la balaa muy ñëw sax ci history dañuy wax ne place bi mu war a gàddaay place tàndarma la tàndarma lu bëri njëriñ la ci doomu aadama yi. waaw loolu dafa nekk ci texte bi ci texte hadis bi ne yonent bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tàndarma yu tool la doon jël lu tool mooy loo xam ne fa nekk 3 or 5 wala loo xam ne 7 9 loo xam ne daal mënta nekk ñaar.
The Fatu Network visited the Serekunda market to engage date vendors there, and Rasidu Bari is a date trader for 15 years.
Tandarma bi commencé na léegi am na 15 years depuis mu commencé ma atti bu nekk ak lum ñëwee beneen at dina daw normal beneen at tan du daw business moo mel noonu nekkul everyday mu dem normal tey nga am ëllëg nga ñàkk ma weer koor see jotee ay jullikat yi yëpp dina ñëw jënd tàndarma pour ñu yóbbu ko si goram wala si keram wala si papam wala si yaayam pour ñu am mbuuña bon segom bi c'est keneen gi see ñëwee uti jabar dina jënd tàndarma mu dem si def si takka bi pour takka bi mu am barke gaa yëpp ñu kontaan moo tax gaay mu toppoo si tàndarma bi te gisee tàndarma bi mu ñëw mbir Muhammad ya Rasulallah yàlla moo ko indi si sabam la léegi ku jël tàndarma bi rek ñu def si sokolam yàlla dina ko tiye yàlla dina ko nangu pour Muhammad ya Rasulallah moo tax tàndarma mu am darja non taami weeru koor bi tàndarma bi moo gën a dox pour que taami weeru koor bi gaay mu am sokola si tàndarma c'est nekkul taami weeru koor gaay am na sokola si tàndarma pour ñu génnee saraka ma weeru koor bi moo gën a dox normal.
It is scientifically proven one can consume dates at any hour of the day without any digestive issues. Research shows the fruit is high in fiber, excellent at disease fighting, promotes brain health, promotes natural labor, and a lot more. The Quran also narrates the incidents when Maryam, may Allah be pleased with her, was provided with fresh ripe dates when she was feeling pain during childbirth, and this also served as a reason for considering dates to be beneficiary to pregnant women while experiencing contractions. Fatu Kamara reporting for the Fatu Network News Review.
TAF Africa Global is proud to launch the Moria Gardens, conveniently located in Bruford, 5 minutes off the Bruford Highway. Moria Gardens is set to comprise of 20 fenced and gated service plots with sizes ranging from 264 to 420 meters square. Unique features include water and electricity infrastructure, solar street lights, all-weather roads and scenic gardens. We offer a 10-year mortgage plan with a 25% equity down payment in partnership with GT Bank, Trust Bank and EcoBank. For more information, please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333 or visit our offices at Madiba Mall at Taft Bruford Gardens, opposite 5-Star Hotel.
Thank you very much and welcome back. So my guest today is Mr. John Charles Njai. He is the nation's top civil society leader. He is the chairman of the Civil Society Coalition, the Gambia. Mr. Njai, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Lamin, for having me.
Thank you very much. This year is a very important year. We have the election. And over the years, we have seen the massive role that the civil society has played in the development of this country. But this year is going to be special. We are having presidential elections. The civil society will be there to play the role it continues to play. In terms of the election, take us through the role of the civil society. Why is the civil society important in this?
Well, once again, thank you for having me. Indeed, this is a very critical year for our country. Elections can be very divisive. They could be peaceful, but what we see in a number of cases, they could also be chaotic. But as civil society, our role in elections, it's what we always do. We look at the best interest of the country. And when it comes to elections, we begin by monitoring the registration, voter registration. Apart from monitoring to ensure that it is free, fair, it is transparent. Because whenever there are doubts to the credibility of any elections, it is a breeding ground for violence and chaos. So we begin by sensitizing people, first and foremost, to get out and register. When we get to, and that a number of civil society organizations are already doing that, sensitizing the general populace to register, get their documents ready, so that during the registration process they could register. Also, when it comes to the registration time, we are active. We have a civil society coalition on election observations, which is headed by WANEP. So we all work with WANEP when it comes to that, and we are accredited by IEC to monitor the registration process. From the registration, obviously we know that it's a long process. We would monitor to see, go around the country to see that registration is being done peacefully, and also it is transparent, that it is hitch-free. Also get maybe to hear from the people, see for ourselves on the ground what is happening. From registration, we will move to the campaign period to monitor what the political parties are doing. And if there are any concerns that we notice, we will obviously highlight those concerns. And then election day, we will also be there observing the elections all throughout the country. And for the past, I think, 3 elections or so, the Coalition on Election Observation has been able to put up what we call the Situation Room, where we have a hotel and we set up everything there. We have data entry clerks that are entering data as it comes. Our observers go all around the country to observe the elections and feedback to the Situation Room. And what the Situation Room normally has been able to do is to collate information as to what is happening on election day. And if there are any hitches, we are able to relay the message to whoever, because we have IEC represented there, we have the security personnel represented, civil society, so that before chaos erupts, you are able to nip it at the bud, because you are able to, if there are areas or in some election places, polling centers, if there are issues there, you are able to relate. If there are security threats, you could call the police, and we've been able to do that very effectively. But I think beyond civil society, Gambians do have a very big role to play. Gambians will have to decide what happens going forward. And we urge and encourage every Gambian, as much as is in our power, at least go and get your voter's card first. And then you could decide on who you want to vote for. One of the things that saddens my heart, and I've been observing elections, I don't know for how long now, I've lost count, but is that you see people, I can tell you 2016, somebody was there on the line and was complaining bitterly about, this president, Jammeh, this, that. And then towards the end, he showed me an old voter's card. Yes. And he was asking me, can I vote with this? I said, well, I don't think so. But ask with the IEC. Yes. But this is somebody that really did not like the system. Yes. But he did not have his voters card. Have his voters card in place. So I think every Gambian should be able to do what is right. Mm-hmm. Let's get the voters card, and then let's decide on what we do going forward.
Now, because the civil society is a very critical stakeholder. If you look at 2016, we have seen the massive role the civil society played. Mm-hmm. There was an impasse. The civil society was right there to push for the will of the Gambians to be respected. What the likes of, Gambia has decided, for example. Yeah. This year is going to be the first election post-Jammeh dictatorship. Mm-hmm. You look at the civil society, or you look at this government, when it took power, it came on the pledge or on the promise of serving for a transitional government of 3 years. Yeah. That was derailed. Yeah. What did the civil society do in terms of finding a way to ensuring that what was promised the Gambians was what really was implemented?
Well, you see, when it comes to the issue of the 3 years, I think it's quite an interesting thing, because people talk about morality versus legality. And really, if civil society, we are law-abiding. We want to always support what the law states first. And obviously, we will remind politicians of their moral pledges and all that. And for me and most of us in civil society, we've always said that then, Gambians must be able to make quality decisions based on if a politician promises you A, B, C, and he doesn't deliver on those promises, why do you want to give them a second chance? So that is for the Gambians to decide. But I think when it comes to the 3 years, we were all, not everybody was on the same page. Some people just believed, well, allow them to do the 5 years because that's what the Constitution says. And the coalition themselves seemed a bit disjointed. They were telling us whether they didn't sign or they signed. So the whole thing was messy. So what we felt was necessary, just go through the 5 years and then people should decide. It is going to be left. Civil society must remain apolitical. We must remain non-partisan and just go ahead and sensitize people. The people will have to make a choice.
Now, one thing that was also in the minds of a lot of Gambians has to do with having the upcoming elections under a new constitution. The civil society was part and parcel of that. Yeah. From the outset, when the new constitution was being cobbled together, the civil society was engaged. Yeah. But what we have seen, that plan failed. In your opinion, why do you think this failed as a stakeholder in this? Why do you think that the draft constitution? Well,
I want to be a bit more measured when I because I have used some very strong words against the politicians. So they have told me that as a mediator I should calm down. Yes. But I feel that on all sides we are failing ourselves as a nation, because you cannot make promises on changing laws that promoted and established or entrenched dictatorship and tyranny. You cannot make promises on that and fail your first 5 years, because what that shows is as if maybe people can read it that you are not as committed as you promised to be able to change those laws, because these are the laws that encourage tyranny. So for us to go into elections with the same laws after 5 years, I think that is a big disappointment. Up to now, we are looking at what else can be done. It's getting more and more unlikely that we will have a constitution, a new constitution before the elections, but we still feel that there is need, we must keep talking and working on having a new constitution.
But clearly, I mean, it's not possible now.
Well, it's not possible, but you know, we are planning a national conference before the end of this month, just to have the buy-in of all stakeholders. We're going to bring regional representatives and just to talk as Gambians, not to do the blame game, but what is possible? What can we do? Because you don't have a 50+1, which is a simple a majority to be able to rule. With the plethora of political parties we have now, 25% or 30% of the votes, or even 15%, any party that or candidate that has 15% and the rest of the votes are divided by the the other.
Yes,
you are going to be president with 15% of the votes. Can we think what that means for our country? That means that you are not ruling with a majority, and that's dangerous. So we have to seriously, as Gambians, sit and think and look at the bigger picture. What do we really want for our country? Because all these little political statements here accusing one another is not the issue. Is do we really want to get into elections and have somebody that has 20%, 15% of the votes be president, and 80% of the population or the electorate are against your presidency? But that is what we are likely going to have.
When it comes to the draft constitution, you are talking about the government. This was pledged to the Gambian people by the government, not necessarily the outside stakeholders. It was the government that was supposed to deliver on this, only for it to get to the National Assembly, and you have a group of MPs.
But this is the thing. This is the thing.
So that is where the problem lies, don't you think so?
But you see, democracy is a messy process, and we have to accept that. I keep saying that maybe we were to manage our expectations more, and also not outrightly trust the political class. Because what we see is that our politicians are not always forthcoming. They are not always very straightforward. They will promise you A and then give you Z and then give you excuses, or not give you anything and give you excuses. So the constitutional building process has a place of consultation with the general public. There is another phase that has to be a political phase, according to our constitution. Now, the political phase, it's a give and take. There must be trade-offs. But if all parties are adamant on their positions, then we have a problem. And for me, I just believe that we could have passed the political stage if everybody was well-meaning and looking at the bigger picture, looking at Gambia. I think we could have had some consensus. But what is happening now, we are so much of a polarized country and a polarized community that it is disheartening, to see what you see and hear what you hear. It's as if you are outside of government and you speak or criticize, you are seen as opposition. People don't want to look at the value of what you have. If you are in government, maybe opposition doesn't want to hear what you say. You are pro this, against this. We are not even listening to each other. I mean, for us in civil society, sometimes we are being blamed that we are too pro-government. We are holding brief for government.
Is that what you do?
No, but that's not what we do. We stand on the side of truth. And truth is not relative. Truth is absolute. So if government is right, and you don't expect me to be telling you government is wrong.
Yes.
If government is wrong, I would be the first to say they are wrong. You get my point? But there are things, and because of also our position in civil society, some of the interactions and engagements we have sometimes more information than the public. So sometimes the public expects us to react in a particular way. But you have added information that the public does not have. And until we are able to listen to each other, we will keep accusing and blaming each other. but we will not be going anywhere and we will not be making any inroads in our development.
Now, let's also talk about the second flopped process. Was to get a mediator, a negotiator outside to come and then talk among the stakeholders to find a way of eking out a deal that also failed. You were part and parcel of that, the good luck Jonathan talks, if you like. In terms of that process, what is your assessment? Was that a good idea at all? Because clearly, I mean, for good or for the worse, or for the bad, there was nothing that came out of that.
No, but you can't say there was nothing that came out. A lot came out. As a matter of fact, when they started the dialogue, I mean, amongst the political parties, for the first time, all the political parties, the stakeholders were able to sit together and have a discussion, a matured, frank discussion on what they felt should be in the Constitution and should not be in the Constitution. Now, they had gotten a consensus on a number of things. I mean, in the Constitution, whether things that they felt were overburdening the Constitution and could be removed, that maybe would have more cost if they are put if they are left in the Constitution, things like that. They have agreed on a number of issues. Now, the sticking point really was when the term of the presidency would begin. And obviously, this government has reneged on its promise of 3 years and they are staying for 5 years. This government does not want this current term of the president being counted. Now, look at what has happened. Because of the impasse in this, now we are going into elections with a constitution that has no term limits. So if you are fighting against Barrow staying for 15 years, you have just given Barrow a free ticket if Gambians vote for him in 2021. So if Barrow wins in 2021 under the 1997 Constitution, that means that we still have him, if he's still adamant on the current term not being counted, then his 2021-26 term, he can say it should not be counted. And then that means that he has 2 terms after, which gives him 20 years. But you are saying that you don't want self-perpetuating rule. Self-perpetuating rule, a constitution that has a term limit, and a constitution, 1997 constitution, has no term limit. Now, if, as some people are saying, or some parties are saying, they are sure that they would win the elections. So if you voted in a new constitution and you win the elections, then Barrow doesn't even have a second term. So incumbency or retroactivity doesn't even matter again. So you see, there are, for me, I keep saying that we could have looked at this from a better perspective. Instead of just holding to our guns. Now you are just, if this is just, I mean, hypothesis. I mean, it's hypothetical, whatever that we are giving now. Any party can win, as it is. But we all know that incumbency also comes with so many things. Our people, for one, there are people that tell you they will never vote against the incumbent because it is God's will and all those things. So let's take, for instance, President Barrow wins 2021. I know some people will say God forbid, but fine. But it's just, I'm just making an analysis. If he wins 2021 and we don't have a constitution, and then he has majority in the assembly in 2022, and decides that at the assembly he's going to move for a new constitution. And now the new constitution, the term of the presidency will begin 2026. So Barrow then can say, well, he wants to be here until 2036. But you see, the other side, the flip side is this. If Gambians decided that, okay, Mr. President, no problem, you say you want to stay, your term is not going to count, no problem. Come 2021, we vote you out. You win 2021, come 2026, we vote you out. Because we don't want anybody to stay more than 10 years. So these decisions really are the decisions that we, the Gambians, would have to make. And I kept saying that I think our politicians have failed us in the sense that they should have allowed us, the people, to decide on what we felt is best for us. Right. So whatever the case, they should have brought this matter to a referendum. As a matter of fact, the president of the Bar Association, Mr. Salutal, has even said that, okay, can't we just have a constitution, go to a referendum, and have a separate question for the electorate to decide? When do you want the president, the term of the presidency to begin? Do you want it to begin from 2016 or 2017? Or can we say it's going to begin 2021 or 2022? So, you know, and you have a referendum, you have a constitution, and you have that question separate. But those proposals are still being fought. So that's why I'm saying that I don't think we have really sat down as a people to look at what is in the best interest for all of us. And it's disheartening.
But on a serious note, don't you think that this president is not being fair to Gambians? A president that pledged or vowed to end self-perpetuating rule in this country. A president that said he was just going to serve for 3 years. Now he wants 5 years. Okay, fine. Gambian said fine. Now he wants 10 years. And now he wants 15 years. He said, okay.
No, now let's say 20.
Let's say 20.
No,
do you think, in your opinion, do you think that is fair at all?
I don't think the president has treated us fairly. I think the president should really, and even the people that surround him, especially the people that surround the president, they should have really sensed or looked at where we are coming from, the pain that we've been through, the betrayal that the leadership has betrayed the Gambian people for 22 years, how we have lost our dignity as Gambians, how we have become a laughingstock. We could have taken all these things and said, look, I was coming in for 3 years. Even if I have 5, it's enough. If I have another 5, it's bunya. And I don't want anything apart from that. Because you see, the longer you stay in a position, the more reckless you become. The more carefree you become. The more you begin to feel that, you know, you are maybe like a god. When Jammeh started, in the first few years, he was a bit, you know, yeah, obviously there were things that were happening, but he was not like his last years. His last years, he got out of hand. They can be makomom. You started, being arrogant and all that. And one thing, you know, there's a little place in the Bible that I like. It says, pride goes before destruction and a hurtful spirit before a fall. And when leaders begin to get proud and arrogant and talk to their people anyhow, it's a sign of a downfall.
It's trouble, huh?
It's trouble. But it should be a signal to also them. I kept telling people that when Jammeh started saying some of these things, you know, I will live for 1 billion years. What sane man could say you can live for 1,000 years? You know, people are struggling to live for 100. So for you to get it, that's the height of arrogance, where you feel that the people, you own them. I can do with you, I can hire you, fire you, you know, you have to come and be begging me. I lock you in prison. You have to write a letter to apologize for being innocent. That's where we were. You know, and if leaders get to that point, for me, I don't get worried again, because I know it's just a matter of time, because they would crumble.
What do you make of the transitional justice program? I mean, we have the TRRC. I know the various reforms are being rolled out, but the TRRC stands out. They are almost at the tail end of their work. But, I mean, every now and then you see people, there are concerns whether this government will really implement whatever recommendations that the TRRC might come up with. In the opinion of the civil society, what have you seen?
Some of the concerns that the government may not implement the recommendations of the TRRC are quite genuine, because not many, maybe if there are any, even not many people are very happy with the outcome of the Janneh Commission. We thought better could have happened. As a matter of fact, there are even stories about monies that were logged into certain accounts that nobody knows what is happening again. What happened to the sales? Are we hearing about the sales? Are we hearing about the income that is generated from the sales? What is government doing with it? And if you follow that precedence, then you will be asking, really, would the recommendations of the TRRC be implemented? But I think it will be very wicked of the government to turn a blind eye and treat the recommendations of the TRRC maybe just the way they treated the Janneh Commission, as we could see. Because the TRRC, this is talking about the life, the blood, the pain of individuals. It's not like the economic thing that Janneh did. This is life and death issues. This is bodily harm that people have gone through. So they should not even think about taking the recommendations lightly. And I know civil society, a lot of us have started discussing what are we to do to be able to help and support government in implementing the recommendations, because it is going to be chaotic if government fails to do the right thing, because I don't think the people would allow that. So I think all of us should put our hands together and not wait for government to fail, but also to support the process and also keep calling on government to show commitment to these causes. Because if not, then I think we would be a doomed nation.
Do you think Janneh should be prosecuted? Going by what we have seen at the
I think the law must take its full course. We always say everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, if he's at the end of the day proven innocent, fine. But I think with all that we are hearing, his prosecution cannot be overemphasized.
It cannot be overemphasized. Now let me also talk about this government and the issue of the election. I'll take you back to the election, because it would appear that this is going to be the most expensive election. At the level of the commission responsible to IEC, we have seen a lot of movement. We've seen now they want to start voter registration in May.
Yeah.
I mean, they are also even contemplating to see if Gambians in the diaspora can vote. But also, what they are telling us is that it is the government that promised to give them or make available all the funds to them for them to be able to put across this very important plebiscite. In terms of the role of the IEC in this election, because I know people are saying, okay, there are voters cards that we found at places.
No, but I mean, you don't need to go far with that. In fact, I've seen a release today talking about the voters card. You know, Gambians, I think we should really get our maturity, our political sense and maturity a bit polished. Because somebody getting voters cards that are blank and they look like the current voters cards, I would not panic on that. I would have said IEC should have done a better job in disposing. I mean, there is a press release that they were disposing of those things. Maybe they took it somewhere, but they could have gotten, how do you call it? These shredders to shred the thing, you know, so that, but, you know, sometimes I think Gambia we are very interesting people. We shout over everything. So I don't have a cause for concern for that, because I know the actual registration of voters begins 29th of May. And the cards for that would obviously come. But blank cards, I don't really think they are going to go anywhere. You know.
Yes.
So, but again, when it comes to preparation, like you asked for IEC, I think IEC should really do their work well and really tell us, especially diasporan voters, whether it is going to be possible. What criteria are they going to use to select countries? Because let's face it, IEC cannot go to everywhere the Gambians are in the world. No country does that. To conduct whatever. It's going to be impossible. But if they are going to take UK and not Spain or Germany, they should be able to come up with a proper criteria on what do they have a database of Gambians in all these countries. And maybe if you are saying where the majority of Gambians are, that's where you are going, and you do your selection, then people should know. And they should be very transparent about that. Because these are the things that can cause confusion. And they should also know, or they should be able to tell us, maybe in the next few months, what kind of voting is going to happen in the diaspora. Because I really would find it very interesting if we are going to carry our ballot boxes, our drums with the marbles, and then, you know, I mean, and then the people will be looking at there is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just the logistical nightmare for me to carry all those things. I mean, the marbles, that's a lot of weight. Yeah. I mean, and then if you are going to have 17 candidates or more, or 20 candidates, I mean, imagine 20 ballot drums going around the world with marbles and everything. That's a logistical nightmare. So if there is going to be whatever, if there is going to be paper ballot in diaspora, even that, there must be legislation to back that. Of course. And obviously there must also be voter sensitization for people in the diaspora to know how they are going to do. Let's not assume that because they are in the diaspora, they know how to fill paper ballots. That's not every Gambian out there is learned. So we should be able to, or is lettered. So it's not going to be, IEC should really come out with a clear set of rules and regulations and criteria for selection and the way this is going, and also keep us all informed.
How about the political parties? We have, I mean, you meet people and they tell you almost every Gambian wants to be president now. How about the candidates and all the people that have come out to want to run for president?
Well, you know, somebody said, and I believe this, that we are a country that we have not moved from politics of personality to politics of ideas and agenda. Yeah. We just look at people. Somebody tells you, Lamin Jai, yo boy, my brother, I give famous Thai boy, they want to register party. And you think that, yes, I can register a party. There is another thing. And that's a criticism that people make. I don't know how true it is. I don't have the evidence. Yes. But it also makes some sense. Yes. That because there was a coalition government in 2016, yes, and they all ended up having positions in the government, in this new in Barrow's government. So because of that, everybody is angling to form a party, even if it's a briefcase party, so that if coalitions are going to be formed, you, yes, may have a ministerial position. Yes. But I think the IEC, I mean, and I have said this over and over, the IEC should have been able to do, yes, something that, because you see, it's costly to put a drum and marbles and everything for, mm-hmm, every candidate. Mm-hmm. So there must be some kind of way of penalizing people that are wasting our time. So if, yes, you are coming and you cannot have 5% or 10% of the votes, yes, and you are put a 5 million deposit that you will lose. Because you see, what we must be careful about is that let's not also have politicians. And you know, let me tell you something. Our politicians, I think when we met for the validation, mm-hmm, our politicians are not interested in having, how do you call it, party financing regulated. They are not.
Because it works to their favor.
So, and then the same people, if they are in opposition, they are blaming the incumbent, that the incumbent is using government funds and all that. But if you want to regulate it, you are saying no. And if you regulate it, then you can hold the government accountable or the incumbent accountable. But now, everybody is now forming a party where they are getting money, we don't know. There is money laundering all around the world now. There is terrorist financing. So we must make demands to know where our politicians are getting money from. Because to just get 1 million to register, I mean, where are all these people getting all this money from? So let them also account to us. And if they are not able to be transparent to us, then I think we should start shutting down these people one after the other. But we need seriousness. You know, one time there was this collage of all the political party aspirants. You know, it's like a joke. 2 million people, less than 2 million people. How many people are going to vote? Less than 1 million maybe. And then we have to choose from 21 people? No, come on.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. But again, sometimes there is a flip side.
Yes.
Because you could say, because we are doing politics of personality, people are coming up because they really cannot identify maybe with a party that is showing true democratic principles.
Yes.
So we should be able to question this, and maybe the scientists and the researchers should really do some work and tell us why are we having so many political parties. Is it greed? Is it really genuine interest? What is the reason? And as we get to elections, Gambians also must be asking this to ourselves.
Yes.
Why should I vote for A and not B? Yeah.
Yes. Finally, I will ask you one final, and that has to do with the media, the journalists. They are also very important stakeholders in this. I know just a few days ago you made some comments that the Gambians should also be mindful of jungler journalists. I really don't know what that means.
No, well, no.
So that time maybe you can break that jungler journalist. I told myself, wow.
I said journalists must not be jungler journalists.
What are the jungler journalists?
You know. We all know the atrocities that the junglers did. Yes,
it's marks of blood.
Yeah, but
death. Yeah, that's what jungler is.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you are irresponsible in your journalism, you could cause chaos. You could cause war in the country.
Yes, people could die.
People could die. So the way you report, and what I was saying also, what we see now. Okay, I know a lot of people post things on social media, but what we see is almost a race. Against time or against something, or a race for fame, that I am the first to break the news.
Yes.
So you break the news without even verifying whether the news is newsworthy, whether the news is true, whether the news is, what impact the supposed news may have on the people. And the journalists, you have a responsibility, because our people are not politically matured. We are not as sophisticated as we think. Gambians think we know everything. We are experts in everything. You get my point? So if you as a journalist come up with a hot story, let's take for instance elections. You just get up and announce that one party has won the elections, and the fans or the party supporters get up and start jubilating, only to discover that it was an error. You know what that can cause in our country? Because this elections is a high-stakes election. So that's what I mean, that don't be a journalist that would be causing bloodshed because of your hot blood. You want it to be, I want to be the first that it's Laminjai that broke the news that this party has won, Barrow has been whatever, or Barrow has won. So let's be careful. And if we are all looking at, and there's another thing. Right now, I know the accusations are all over. They will say civil society, they will say journalists, that there are journalists that are pro-parties. That's a dangerous thing to do as a journalist. Journalists must be non-partisan. Because if you are not there only to address the NPP or the UDP or NRP or whatever, you have a whole gamut of people that are listening to what you have to say. So if you want to be credible, for me, and I keep saying it, as civil society, I cannot associate myself with any political party. I just remain where I am. When it's time to vote, I go and vote. But if I begin now supporting one party, then I am alienating all other parties from listening to my objective views.
Of course.
So I think journalists must also try as much as they can to ensure that party affiliations are not part of what they do. Let them do. You can vote, you can associate with any party, but let it not affect your work. Because once it does that, it undermines your credibility as a journalist. And what that does is, there are a certain number of people in the country that will not listen to you. Because they just don't like the party you support.
Of course. Mr. Yang, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. We've run out of time now.
Thank you very much.
We'll most definitely have another session as we edge closer and closer to the election. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So that was my guest today, John Charles Njai. He's the leader of the country's civil society. He was my guest today. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then.